Hello, everyone. We're back to Counterpoint Conversations. This time we are at Computex and with Pegatron. I would like to introduce, we have the two executives here. We have CY and David. CY, please go ahead and introduce yourself. And
Okay, this is a CY Feng, and I'm responsible business group 6 within Pegatron. Okay, and business group 6 is a business group responsible for all the communication products, but not include cell phone. Cell phone is another business. But for overall, from the broadband CPE enterprise solution, carrier call solution like 5G O-RAN, and also AIoT, and all of this kind of the communication products under Business Group 6. Okay, it's my great pleasure to join this interview with my partners. It's Dave here.
yeah, thank you. Please go ahead, David. Please.
Hi, I'm Dave Hoelscher and work for CY, and I'm leading up the 5G product line within CY's Business Group 6. And like CY mentioned, Business Group 6 is all communication products, and 5G is a part of that. So very nice to be here today, and hope we can talk a little bit more about products, solutions, and those kind of things.
Yep, thank you. CY, I'll come to you first and just talk a bit from a strategy perspective about 5G and verticals you see from a device maker perspective.
Okay.
Which applications, which key areas you see the business going forward?
I would say after the COVID and also for past few years, I would say 5G did not go as we expect. But from 5G itself, the performance-wise, characteristic-wise, it's a path we have to go through. You can imagine that in the future, in the factories or even the home, you have the robot, you have especially for humanoid and robot work in the factories. You need a very solid communication, provide high bandwidth, provide very low latencies, and a massive connection capability. That's the basic characteristics of 5G. So if that's based on the current Wi-Fi, you can imagine that the robot stop for wire, or kind of machine stop for wire. That's not what we expect. So I would say Wi-Fi has its own purpose.
Okay.
And 5G definitely will apply for the future. So I think that work on the future of 6G, 5G definitely a path we need to go through.
Yeah.
And probably a little bit late, but we do believe that business will come gradually and to the point.
Okay.
Everybody can share with.
Okay, so it's more of a synergy between 5G and Wi-Fi rather than a 5G or a Wi-Fi kind of a scenario.
No, that's I believe we company believe that there will be kind of the apply for a different purpose.
Okay.
For some area, for example, logistic, smart factory, and all this kind of the application vertical segment that will be definitely 5G will be good for this.
Okay.
But on the other hand, for the IT area, for the office, that's a different Wi-Fi will be good enough. But of course, that depends on kind of the purpose of application.
Yeah.
And especially in the future, AI will be kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
As you know. So company-wise, we believe 5G become a solid communication infrastructure with AI on top, and also kind of every industry domain knowledge, and that will become really digital transformation for each industrial. So that's
I think
we believe so.
That's true. Like we also have been looking at this specifically, I think on the enterprise side, if you look at bigger ports, warehouses, 5G, maybe private 5G makes a lot of sense rather than having more Wi-Fi APs turned around and manage those. And also from a security perspective as well.
Exactly.
So David, I would like to come to you and talk a bit more on the network side. I think there has been a lot of chat about ORAN and
Right.
deployments around 5G or private LTE as well initially.
Right.
So how do you see this going forward? And there has been a hype curve that you were talking about.
Right. I think we
Yeah,
were talking about
yeah.
that before.
So I would like you to get your thoughts on ORAN and
And I think I go back to what CY was mentioning. I think what we'll see more and more is a blend of different wireless technology. We didn't really talk about it much yet, but satellite will be mixed in with that blend as well, especially for some private 5G applications. Uh, but I think we also mentioned this hype curve. And so what we're seeing now in about 2020 was the first iterations of ORAN.
Yeah.
It was very somewhat problematic in terms, especially of the number one killer app, in my opinion, in network infrastructure stability.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing where ORAN kind of failed on in the early iterations. So we've really invested a lot in our kind of 2.0 version of ORAN to fix some of the things that cause those instabilities. So one of the big things was the timing synchronization. So there's two different methods that we can use. One's called PTP and one's called FIMP. And so we use both of those. And
okay.
really help to make the timing connection much more stable and dependable. So that's one thing. And then also, in addition to the ORAN, there's integrated small cell, which basically takes the layer 2 and layer 3 that typically would reside in the server,
Yeah.
and then hosts that on the radio itself. So that makes it much easier and quicker to deploy.
Okay.
So we have both of those types of solutions, both the ORAN split 7.2
Yeah.
and the integrated small cell.
Understood. So just looking from a outlook perspective, with 6G now almost on the brink towards the end of the decade, do you think ORAN has a lot more potential there?
I do think so. I
Yeah.
think we'll see, especially in high power radio,
Yeah.
more and more that'll be moving into ORAN. And I think with AT&T and Verizon, what's going on in North America, that the adoption of ORAN, although primarily right now it's single player ORAN,
Yeah.
but that will be opening up to multiple players. Maybe not quite the dream of ORAN in its initial
Yes.
phase where there'll be hundreds and hundreds of companies.
Yeah.
I think that we'll see consolidation and maybe there'll be tens and 20s of companies.
Yeah, I think
that are
that's true because from a orchestration point of view, it's very difficult and to manage if you have like more OEMs getting into the whole value chain, and from a security point as well, it's a nightmare to manage. But from a value perspective, it makes a lot of sense, right?
Right.
The ecosystem, if you look at either Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia, was very closed. Even
Exactly.
even right now, they are trying to adopt a bit of openness into their ecosystems. We have seen
Right.
solutions.
So, and things that kind of become cyclical. So,
Yeah.
like 20 years ago, there were probably about 10
Hmm.
relatively large players like Lucent and Alcatel.
Wow.
Then those all merged, consolidated.
Yeah.
You ended up with a triopoly, basically Ericsson, Nokia, Huawei.
Yeah.
And now I think with ORAN was a response to that.
Yeah.
But now I think as we're seeing consolidation in ORAN,
True.
it'll be a more powerful.
I think it's a good point, but ORAN has given some potential. If you look at Japan, Rakuten,
Yeah.
and even Geo in India,
Mhm.
I think there is a lot of potential, right? They're trying to do more and more in house, and
Right.
there has been some pressure on the traditional vendors.
And
in the-
even though they're doing in-house,
Yeah.
they're still working with a lot of.
Yeah, because they cannot make everything on
Right.
their own, right? So,
Mhm.
so just to get your thoughts, let's look at it from 5G sub-6 versus millimeter wave FRN versus FR2. I think you guys have multiple products from fixed wireless access towards the network side. Uh, I would like to get your opinions on how do you see FR2 going towards second half of the decade and 6G as well. So maybe CY, if you can talk a bit about how do you see FR2 growing up? Personally, I've been looking into FWA, and I believe that is one of the biggest application right now. Smartphones have kind of, uh, we haven't seen that growth outside of US. There are spectrums in Japan, Australia, but now that is more, everyone is talking more about FWA rather than
Yeah.
a smartphone. So I would like to get your views on the FR2.
Yeah, I think that FWA indeed it is growing. It's just like some territories it mentioned. I think they're pretty much at the grow uh, for extend the wireline base, and but also with better cost, and so it become a one of the most strongest growth communication projects in the coming years. That's almost for sure. But if you're talking about the FR2 for the FWA, that will be more kind of at this moment. I would say it will be more kind of the more in more specific area.
Yeah.
Right. So very much happen in for example, that spatial area for connecting the FR2 ODU, then for enterprise or kind of building purpose. And on the other hand, that FR2 also kind of has some opportunity for private 5G as well.
Okay.
So that can enhance the overall performance. But today, I have to say that FR2's the cost is still pretty still high,
Okay.
and overall deployment cost is that's higher than expected. So I would say FR1, FWA definitely will be the mainstream still in the coming few years, and we will see that FR2 happen in certain specific areas.
Yeah. Understood.
That's one.
Well, just to look it from where I come from, if you look at India, there is a lot of a digital divide. So you cannot have optical fiber everywhere.
Yes.
So we are seeing a big push in FWA, but it is still like sub 6. But based on the volumes that are going to get driven by these number of users who come into the ecosystem, so the FR1 is alone not be able to drive all that bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
So there might be solutions that would be just FR2 based. I think in the China in the recent past we have seen CPEs with just FR2 getting much cheaper than sub 6 plus millimeter wave kind of a deployment. But you are right. I think it's going to be a area to area basis, because you cannot have so many small cells, and it doesn't make sense to have everything at FR2. But maybe as we go towards 6G and more network kind of a densification that it takes place, I think you can't take FR2 out of picture, right?
Yeah, I think that's indeed that's in the near future. FR2 definitely will be on the roadmap.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's again, I mean, I truly believe that Wi-Fi will have its application for Wi-Fi. There's application for 5G, and definitely there will some application will for FR2 based on cost, based on overall deployment efforts, everything. So I think from time to time, all this advanced technology will grow as we expect.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, even if you look at like Cat 6 and below, Cat 4, it's also evolving with 5G RedCap. So we might not need like blazing fast fiber speeds at the edge.
Yes.
So it's maybe 5G RedCap can do the same thing. So David, just to get your opinion on the RedCap and how that is evolving.
Yeah, I think actually it's very funny. We were talking about this earlier, but in technology, it seems like there are a lot of cyclical things.
Yes.
And so in LTE timeframe, we had what's called Cat M1
Yeah.
or NB-IoT. And so RedCap is kind of the 5G version of that. And
Yeah.
The holy grail is to have a reduced spectrum footprint and a lower cost device. And for many, many applications, that's more than sufficient. A good example is a camera. You have a 4K camera, you're going to use about 10 megabits per second, and that's well within the RedCap area. So, and we're putting those kind of things into our roadmap. So, especially for dongle and 5G camera, we have those. We're showing them right now. So maybe later we can take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also just to go back on the FWA point, we also do have outdoor unit FWA, and we're optimizing that for FR2 only or FR1 only. So before we put both, and that of course makes the expense higher. So we do see the need to optimize for either or, and to bring the cost down.
Interesting. I think we talk a bit about it. Let's just bring the giant into the room. I think AI, everyone is talking about it. I went through your booth and I saw really interesting solutions. I think just to get your perspective on how you guys are implementing it, AI at the edge. Maybe some use cases we saw was surveillance.
Valence is one. We have another one I like talking about. CY is the SOP. So in our smart factory, we have what we call SOP enforcement station. And so you think like factory has 100% success rate, which we'd like to have. But unfortunately, there's always some failures.
Yeah.
We use AI with optical inspection to determine if the PC boards are a pass or not pass.
Okay.
So let's say 99% are pass. They go into the pass pile and they have the AGV that carries them onto the next station. So that's all automated. But the 1% or whatever percent that doesn't pass, that has to go back to be reworked. And the reality of a factory is that you have a lot of turnover in the employees. So you may have people that are new in their job. And so when they're doing this rework, depending on what type of AI identified error is on the board, there will be an exact procedure of how to fix it. And so if the worker is following that procedure, we'll use another AI candidate
Okay.
to make sure they follow. But if they don't, it will identify where they made a mistake, stop them, and then call over a supervisor that can train them on how to do that. So it not only improves our rework rate, but it also trains the employees at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good example of AI. I've heard the saying, probably you have too, that it's not AI that will rule the world, it's the people that use AI to rule the world.
I think that's true. A great quote as well.
Yeah, that's good.
CI, coming to you, let's talk a bit more about AI and at your end devices, maybe routers, gateways. Uh, how do you see the implementation, uh, key use cases apart from smart factories into the homes from a AI perspective?
At this moment, I would say our implementation communication products still infrastructure.
True.
Okay, because we have to pay attention for this infrastructure cost wise and the standard wise. And so at this moment, we still believe to separate AI function to upper layers and make sure the lower communication products and devices and overall transmission that's solid enough to do all the communication purpose. So at this moment, we are separating this way. Of course, that's in the future, based on the advanced technology for chip, everything, when cost come down to a certain point,
Okay.
and also not exactly, for example, the factory definitely will be kind of infrastructure.
Yeah.
But at home, they will be different.
Different.
So a router at home, it could be a kind of communication center. So on this device, you put on the AI capability. That definitely would be a perfect way
Yeah.
to go for.
Yeah.
So at this moment, company-wise, also work with a few our partners, chip partners, to make sure that we provide kind of the AI module concept products.
Yeah.
Because when you bring in more communication power, the product become more complicated.
True.
Not exactly every company can design for that.
Right.
So we kind of these uh, uh, extract the AI part to make sure that AI engine become a module and that can complete whole the system and still can kind of based on customers' requirements to put on some other factors. So that's the model we are thinking. Yeah, not exactly a standard way in the future.
Yeah.
But that's the way we think
Yeah.
step by step to approach.
I think I relate to some of those points. I think one thing that particularly I have seen is that home gateways, now they are evolving. It's not just a dumb AP router sitting at the back. It's more like a home control device with let's say Alexa or Google Home baked in with a Wi-Fi mesh or router or even Matter protocols that are coming in actually. So it's much more smarter device rather than what we look back a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I think AI has a great part there as well in controlling everything and basically adding value add from a user perspective. Uh, I think in the interest of time, I'll have like one key takeaway from you from Computex before we wrap this up. So CY, what's a key thing that you have noticed this year at Computex and what has changed?
Okay, I would say I can. I take one point is you can see from our company Pegatron's booth, we focus on the communication. We focus on the AI reactive facility for hardware and software, and also we value the domain knowledges. Which means that we 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 believe that Pegatron's way is to help the industry to move on future digital transformation. We hope we can provide very complete communication infrastructure. Yeah. We can provide very powerful computation platform. We hope we can provide very, I would say, kind of the complete AI platform, software platform. Yeah. And work with our partner with their domain knowledge to come up all the related information. That's what we expect.
Yeah, thanks. David, coming to you, what is your key takeaway from?
I'd say very, very similar. So, we talk about the human nervous system.
Yes.
And I think what we kind of see that in technology here at Computex. So we talk about a lot about AI, and most of those are going to be AI focused, but also communication is what connects the brain to the extremities, right?
Yes.
So all the applications really happen at the edge, and AI is going to happen more at the center. Of course, there's edge AI as well for inference, but anyway, it's kind of like the human nervous system analogy works a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thank you, guys. I wish all the best to Pegatron. In the near future, I think there are a lot of applications, and the end product demand is there. I think specifically, if you look at the connected world and how AI is changing it, and I would like to uh, look more at how Pegatron evolves and adopts to these coming up changes. Thank you, guys. Thanks, CY. Thanks, David.
Anyway,